Hi, welcome to another episode of Broadcasting Northwest Florida. I'm Jennifer Connolly with Florida's Great Northwest. Today, I'm really excited to tap into more of the innovative spirit that we find throughout Northwest Florida. And to help me dig into that a little deeper, we have Carolyn Fries. She's the director with the Doolittle Institute. And I'm just, so like I said, so excited to have you here because we focused on a lot of different companies and organizations within the region, but really you're unique. And so if you wouldn't mind sharing a little more with our audience about the Doolittle Institute and what your mission is, that would be wonderful.
Okay, thanks so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate having this opportunity to talk about us this afternoon because I think there's a lot of people in Northwest Florida and the Southeast US in general that don't know about the Doolittle Institute and what we do. So the Doolittle Institute is actually part of a larger organization called DefenseWorks, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. And what we do is we connect various people within the government to outside entities, whether that's small business, large business, industry of any type, academia, other government organizations. And for the Doolittle Institute specifically, we work with the Air Force Research Lab, which I think there's a lot of people in Northwest Florida that don't realize that we have one of our nation's federal laboratories conducting cutting edge research right here in Northwest Florida. And the Doolittle Institute is the way for, again, small business, academia from universities, as well as other government organizations to connect in with that Air Force Research Lab here. They're conducting research in all sorts of areas, again, cutting edge things like artificial intelligence and machine learning and autonomy, lots of material research. So they also hire a lot of engineers and scientists from our local area here too. So students at our local university, like University of West Florida, would potentially be able to get summer internships through the lab and potentially also have careers working for the Air Force Research Lab or another federal laboratory here in our country.
Carolyn, that's such a great overview about the Doolittle Institute. And I find it very fascinating about the work that you all do with the federal laboratory that, like you mentioned, is in our backyard in the region. So if I'm a small business or maybe even a large business owner and I want to engage with you all, can you maybe peel back the layers and explain how the best area of opportunity?
I'm sure I'd be happy to do that. And one very important point, I believe I mentioned that the Doolittle Institute is a partnership intermediary. And as part of that, by law, actually federal law, we're required to engage in what's called technology transfer. And that's something that was put into place back into the 80s for US-based companies to be able to take advantage of all of this research that's taking place across the country at our federal laboratories. So as a result, for instance, the federal laboratory could develop a new technology. Like a wonderful example is GPS technology was actually developed in the federal laboratories. And as a small business, you would be able to potentially license that technology and commercialize it for use outside of the laboratory. So all of the research that takes place at AFRL, much of that ends up being patented through the US Patent Office. And then that's also put up there for license for companies to be able to take that protected patented technology and commercialize it for sale at their own companies. You know, taking advantage of that federal tax dollar paid research that's going on at the federal laboratories. In addition to licensing potentially a patent from the labs, you can also engage in cooperative research through what they call a CRADA, or a cooperative research and development agreement. There's typically no money that trades hands with that, but it's a good way for a company to be able to do some collaborative research to learn more about what's happening at the laboratory that could potentially lead to funding in the future at some point in time. It's also a good way if a company has received a small business innovation research contract from, say, the Air Force, and maybe you're waiting between, say, a phase 2 and a phase 3 funding stream to kind of be able to continue that discussion along those lines with that collaborative research agreement, as opposed to having a traditional contract in place. Also, the federal laboratories, not AFRL in our neck of the woods, but a lot of them have equipment, very highly specialized, expensive equipment that small businesses can't afford to have on their own. But you can actually work with the federal laboratory to use that equipment and gain access to it through material transfer agreements and those sorts of things. So a lot of opportunities for small business to work with our federal labs, and including the Air Force Research Lab right here in our backyard.
So Carolyn, I know there are a lot of opportunities for people to get involved, certainly in Northwest Florida, that are really experts in what you all are trying to do in your mission. And so I'd love for you to talk to us a little bit about how the public can get involved.
Oh, I'd love to be able to do that. There's 2 events specifically where we usually try to recruit subject matter experts to participate. One of those is called an innovation discovery event, and that's all kind of part of that patent process that I talked about earlier. So a researcher at the lab may have an idea, and they will spend, you know, say 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes talking about their idea to a panel of experts. We usually recruit 6 to 8 business people or technical background people from Northwest Florida to come in and participate as panelists for this. And then those panelists will ask a series of questions to understand the technology. And then after that, they just kind of start firing back ideas to help kind of expand what they call the claims or the different application areas for the patent. Because as you know, the people at the federal lab, they're very focused on what they're doing for the Air Force, and that's their main goal. But in order to have a strong patent that might be useful for commercial industry, you want to try to expand that. So if you again look at that example of GPS, they fire off questions to kind of make you think all the possible applications of GPS as opposed to, you know, what the inventor was thinking of specifically. Another area that we look for subject matter experts is for our design sprints. So we'll do these 4 or 5 day events at the Doolittle Institute, where we'll kind of start off with an idea, and at the end of the week, we actually have a prototype device there. It may be something that was 3D printed at the Doolittle Institute or maybe at the lab, or it could be something that we've put together with, you know, paper clips and cardboard, who knows, right? But people to come in with new ideas, and a lot of times, you know, you might think, oh, well, we need a bunch of scientists and engineers to do that. But the interesting thing about the design sprints is sometimes we want somebody totally off the wall to come in and participate with those. Maybe we want an artist to come in, a real creative, somebody that doesn't think like an engineer. So they'll look at it from a different angle and come in with a new idea that an engineer might not have even thought of. And then the third thing I'll just mention is for the general public. We also do have a number of public events, speakers throughout the years, usually 2 or 3 per year we'll have, and those can be open up to the public. We've had a larger audience lately because of the virtual options, but you know, we're starting to go back to people coming into the facility again. So I would really welcome everybody to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, kind of all the big ones, YouTube as well. You know, follow us on social media and sign up for our newsletters, and then you'll find out kind of what's going on that's at least open to the public. So lots of opportunities to get engaged with the Doolittle Institute.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I think that's all very exciting. And again, it just speaks to, you know, when you think about Northwest Florida and you think about our beautiful beaches, but when you keep looking a little deeper, you find hidden gems like the Doolittle Institute and our military installations and all of the incredible research and everything that's going on there. So thank you for taking the time to share that with our audience today. And we certainly appreciate the Doolittle Institute being in Northwest Florida. And we thank you all for joining us for another episode of Broadcasting Northwest Florida.